Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another design review. As we head towards the next version of Wolfram Language, this design review is about external objects. And Ricardo, take it away.
Hi. Yeah. I think we already did one of these live stream on this topic. So today we're going to finalize the design. So we started writing the documentation, and we are only writing the documentation for external objects. So we are adding all kind of detail inside the detail section. But I wanted to do like a brief recap of what we have done so far. So basically you start an external session and you get back a value. Like for example, here we are trying to work with dates. When you do that, external evaluate converts them to a date object. But from now on, basically you can specify that the return type is going to be an external object. So you can force the result to always be an external object. So even if
Just so I understand, in the usual external evaluate, I can also, instead of using that association, I can simply say, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have that example just right down below, str arrow.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. So
yeah, this is function application, and so this is something that you cannot do in previous versions because it doesn't work.
right, I thought we had a mechanism for returning in particular format. Doesn't external evaluate have a blah arrow blah, something like Python arrow, whatever it is,
yes,
indicates.
that will be on the session level. So on the session level, you decide that you start your session and all the return type is going to be always a string, always an external object. But
Why
you can
can't I
also do it.
say external evaluate of session arrow and then the return type that I want for that particular external evaluate?
That could be implemented.
Can we look at the documentation for external evaluate for a second?
Sure. So if I...
But why are we doing that? Why don't you just look at it in the product? Well, look at it in the product.
I don't think I have it here. External evaluate, you said. It's the same page.
Okay, so could you scroll up to the top again for a second? Yeah, that fifth usage, sys arrow type.
Right.
Now,
right.
You're not specifying, you're not saying that session arrow type, but you could.
I don't think it's implemented this way.
All right, no, I understand.
Basically,
I understand. I'm just saying that would be consistent. Okay.
Yeah, it could be done.
All right.
Yeah, I think we can do an action item for that. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. But now what you're giving
but
here
then
is
on the message level, so you can specify the return type in the association.
right.
And so now you can force it to return an external object even if it was something else. External object is returned by default when we don't know what to do with the Python object, and so you get back an external object. In this case, this is a date, so you get back a date object. You get
So, just so I understand, the things we were discussing recently about external extension, or no, I'm sorry, extension object.
That's different, Steven.
It's a different level.
Yes, it's a different level.
Okay. All right. So that would be what would wrap the result of the external evaluate afterwards. Okay, I got it.
Right.
Okay, onward.
And then you can simply take the object and apply to a function by using this syntax, or you can
wait. The str is the function. Is that right?
str is a function that is built in Python and basically works on every object, and it returns the string of that. So it's a global thing.
Why is that the right notation for this, for function application here? And why is it that way around, not the other way around? I mean, isn't it?
So basically here you can pass multiple arguments. In this case, we are passing only one.
Yeah, I understand that, but why is it? What's our precedent for a function being applied, being name a function arrow whatever? I mean, like in an API call, for example, that will be a parameter name, would have a so I'm saying I'm not sure what
I know there is a bit of inconsistency here because basically the arrow on the left-hand side is for the return type, and
Yep.
here in the message, the arrow is for function application, not
Well,
the
so
return
hold on.
type.
So let's think about that for a second, because I have a question.
Mhm.
I mean, so you're going to define the return type. So one thing, I mean, the other possibility would be the arguments arrow the function. You see what I'm saying?
But this is not something that we are inventing here. This is something that exists since version 12. So like
I'm sorry, what exists since version 12?
this notation.
That's what we
Really?
use all the time, Stephen. So that's already like baked into the design.
Where is it in the external evaluate documentation? I'm not seeing it.
Well, here no, but
Well, so where is it? I mean, so no, you can't. You're not allowed to just look at examples. You're not allowed to look at examples. That's not. Where is it
No,
in the
sure,
documentation? Is it in the
sure.
documentation of specific languages or what?
Yeah, it's not specifically to the parent name.
Did we goof? Do we have a piece of functionality we just didn't document?
I think so, yeah.
I can't remember where it's documented or if it's documented.
Well, so
yeah.
but wait a minute. There's a specific page for Python, isn't there?
Yeah.
For example.
There is.
Let's look at that page. But could we please use the actual built-in documentation? Go to the help menu and just use the help menu.
I don't have a build with documentation, unfortunately. I can go on the web. But
Okay.
this is the, yeah.
Okay, could you scroll to the top, please?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where is this documented at all?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there are examples, but yeah, probably
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
The message specification, obviously, yeah. I mean, there is also the fact that this message thing must be documented somewhere, because there are all kind. Okay, yeah, here.
Sure, that's documented.
But we
that's not
document the shortcut, yes, because basically this is shortcut for
Does that
command
work in
and
all
arguments.
languages? Does that work for all languages?
Oh yeah, this is a framework level, yeah, functionality.
I mean, initially I didn't know it existed either, and I was always using external function until it was pointed out to me that that's the syntax that's supported, and now I'm using that. But I agree that it should be documented.
So wait a minute. Well, how does the external function version of that work?
Well, then it's you don't have arrow now. Then it just you just have
external function.
Then it's just standard Wolfram language function application.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. I mean, the full form of this is basically similar to this one.
Yeah, I get it. I get it with arguments. I understand. I understand with arguments there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, external function is a little bit more standard in the Wolfram language sense, I think.
So just write out what you would write there with external function.
With external function is this example already? Yeah.
Stephen means in one line. Just
no. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. So external evaluate. I see. I got it. So that's a shorthand, but for external function within an external evaluate call.
Yeah, not only. I mean, this is doing 2 backend call and this is doing 1 backend call, but this is, I mean, it's functionally equivalent. This is faster because it does less round trip. Here you need to create the function and then apply it. And here it's doing function application.
I'm kind of annoyed that this isn't in documentation because I think it also was never design reviewed. I don't think it's the best designs. I mean, what else could we do as an alternative way to?
With the arrow, well, the most obvious thing to do is to do the return type, because basically it's on the left-hand side. And so we do Python.
No. I mean, what alternative for this thing that we want?
I think you should look at the function compile ref page for something similar, right?
Yes,
Then you
let's look at
have a
that.
list of input arguments, arrow, and then the output argument. So go to function compile. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then look at examples that, yeah. Look at examples. Let's see here. Yeah, where it says compiled code function in one of these examples as output. Right? You
Yes.
got that signature thing there, right? The signature where it says integer, a
Yes.
list of things, right? That's the input, the argument
Yep.
types, arrow, and then the result type. Now, I don't know if in Python that there's an equivalent, but that's the nearest thing that I can think of.
Yeah, that
Well,
is because on the right-hand side you have the return type. Here you don't have the return type because you don't.
It's typeless.
Yeah.
all right, look, I don't think it's great, but let me just think for a second. What other operator could we use other than an arrow? It's kind of the only thing we have there, I think.
I mean, we
That or
cannot write it as a standard function application.
No, we cannot.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I guess we have to use this. Okay, fine.
I mean,
Let's make sure it gets documented.
Practice, and I quite like the syntax. I think I understand what it does. The thing is that the string can be quite long, so you cannot just sort of use the string as a head or something. Like,
No, I know.
Well,
I
but
understand.
if it is code here and it's a symbol, then it can be as long as you want. So you do code equal to blah blah blah.
Yeah, but people also write big long strings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
So that's, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right, let's move on.
So yeah, the thing that is new is that so basically you can send it back and forth, and yeah, it's basically equivalent of running this in Python. Now once you have the object.
Wait a second. External evaluator has always been able to do that. That last line there, that's always been possible, right?
Yeah.
The difference is the data is getting converted correctly, and that you're able to
pass data. Basically, I mean, the thing is, yes, you can write always Python code, but if the input of your function is a giant numeric array, obviously, you don't want to write that.
Yeah, okay.
And so you
I get it. This is nice.
Yeah, you can send data, you can send external object, and also like this allow you to basically have something that is big on the other side without bringing it back.
Okay, so let me just understand. If I said,
so this thing could be like a giant matrix.
In that function there, if I define the return type to be external object, then when I say func of now, I would get back an external object.
Yes.
Okay. All right, fine.
Yeah. Because you can also apply it in this way, specify yes argument here, and yes, and have back an external object.
Nice. Okay.
Now in terms of operation that you can do on the object itself, so like once you have the object, what can I do with it? So the design was basically influenced by data structure and the way you do operation on data structure, and we have seen
Not my
that
favorite, but yes, okay.
Yeah, and we have seen that first of all, they are called operation there, and so we're calling it operation, not property here. And the way you extract other information is by using information. Now, this is not something that I have implemented yet, but it's something that I was planning to implement, where basically you do information on external object and you get back system available operations. And so it will tell you, that you can do all this stuff.
There'll just be a list of the names.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. And active.
And whether the object is still active. And we were thinking that this could go under information and not be in an operation because it's kind of different, meaning that an operation is actually doing something on the back end.
I agree.
Checking that is active is.
I agree.
Okay. And
yeah. So can we look at these? So that call thing, it's not obvious it should be varogs. Is there a precedent for making it varogs as opposed to a list of arguments?
Right. So inside data structure, there are no vararg thing here. Most of the things are varargs.
I'm sorry, there
And
are vararg things or there are not vararg things?
there are not. There are not. No.
Okay, so
Not as
why
far as I've
why aren't
seen
those
it.
args in a list?
Well, they could. They
I
will
think we should
force
have
you to
that.
add the list, but
I think we should have that.
But wait, isn't there if you had a list as the argument, right?
No, it always
then-
would have a list.
No, but I
So
mean,
basically-
if the argument was going to be a list to this function,
No, I'm saying
you'd have
even
to
the one
have
argument
two-
case, it would
right,
involve a
then-
list.
right? But then you'd have to have like two curlies.
I don't
around
even know
your-
why this thing exists. That first thing there is the equivalent of just saying, why isn't that? Oh my gosh, what a mess.
let me finish, do the demo, and then we move here. So return type is basically, you have your object, and then you ask for a certain return type. So basically, it is transform the object into either a string or an expression. So in this case, the object was a date. So I'm asking for the expression, and it gets me back the expression.
I totally don't understand. I totally don't understand. This is a no, I totally don't understand. This is a horrible hack. Look, you've got the external object, okay? And you're saying, now I want to change its return type to the specified thing, right? And get a result, correct?
Correct.
Because now, in and of itself, if you just type now here, it will be an external object, right? So what you're
Now
trying to
it's the
do
external object.
is you're saying, I want to cast that external object into something else. I want to do a type conversion to something else, right?
Right.
And this looks like it is asking for a return type. It's not saying cast this thing into that return type. I have an idea here, possibly. Let's see how it plays out. I have an idea of essentially nested subvalues that might be more reasonable, because I just don't think this is right. I think this is asking, in other words, if it is return, it certainly shouldn't say return type. If it says anything, it should be the operation is return. And then
So we
giving
have
us an
the
argument for
operation,
string.
we have the operation evaluate, and they could be matched together. But the thing is, you want to evaluate and yes, return the expression most of the time, but you also might want to see what's the string representation on the other side, because as soon as you
Of course.
return,
Yeah, I get it. But what is the difference between? I don't understand. Why is it called return? I mean, return type is something you see in an association that states the type of the return. This is an operation that you're doing. You told me it's an operation. You named these things.
It is an
operations.
operation. Yes,
Okay,
it is
so
an operation.
return type
Basically,
isn't
it's
an
basically
operation. Return type is a key of some kind. You see what I'm saying?
I think the confusion comes from the fact that we now evaluate is defined as shorthand with return type as in an association, right? So it is a bit confusing, yes.
This is wrong. I'm sorry. It's just wrong. Okay. Return type is a fine key to put in the association. It is not the right operation. The operation at best is return, if it's anything.
well, okay. Well, it
Or
could be
evaluate. Yeah.
yes, it could be evaluate, and then
Or it could be
take a
evaluate
second
arrow
argument.
string, for example.
Why
Arrow
not?
string.
Why
Arrow.
arrow?
Because then it's consistent with the other ways we're using things like this.
What about like a function name like external cast, where you say external cast of the external object and then give the type that you want it to be?
That's a possibility too.
Can we test that
Right.
out by typing that?
Or
somewhere?
external convert or something.
And but we have avoided using the sort of top level outer wrapper functions for this, because we have a whole bunch of operations and
It should be an
they
operation.
vary
yes.
they're different from language to language. And so we've just sort of got
Well, are
this.
they? I mean, if they're not
Yeah.
different, like the concept of an external object or an external function is, I mean, to me, I could imagine an external convert outer wrapper that will be useful for, because, okay, let's be clear. The case that this is relevant is for external objects. It's not relevant for anything else. It's casting external objects. It's not casting anything else. Am I correct?
Yeah. But it
Okay.
is technically, internally, this is just an operation for us because basically this is taking the object and applying string to it.
I understand.
So-
What do you mean applying string? It's not applying. The fact that you know
Yes,
that that's some kind of Python operation is not relevant. It's doing a conversion.
We should look at the ref page for cast. I think that's an close.
I mean, the full form would be something like now evaluate, comma, return type arrow string.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
that
good.
would be, but that is a bit unwieldy. So maybe
Doesn't matter. Let's start off with what's right, okay? Because this isn't right, okay? Putting return type there as an operation is just totally wrong, right? So personally, I like the shorthand of evaluate arrow string.
I don't
Then-
get that at all. I
Well,
don't
okay,
get the
what does
arrow there at all.
evaluate do? What does evaluate do? Show me what evaluate does. Okay, I don't understand why it does that. In other words, this is an external
It is
object.
doing that because by default, so the object is bound to an external object, right? But by
Yeah.
default, we know how to convert this object back, and by default
Okay,
we
but that's
convert
not
it
really
to
an
a date.
evaluation operation because, you know, conceptually an external object lives in the external address space of the
It
external
is an
program.
external evaluation when we put it together with all the rest of the design, where those operations can be lazy, and so when you're asking to materialize it, so to do the evaluate, even if it is just a representation of a string, if you were doing multiple operations on this object, one after the other, you are doing an evaluation. And even the fact that you are transforming this thing into a string is doing an evaluation on the other side.
I know. I think it's wrong. I think this is the wrong way to think about it. Okay. First of all, let's understand the bigger picture. The bigger picture is you have a bunch of operations here that are essentially doing things on the external side, correct?
Mhm.
So can you show me the table? Could you move the notebook that you have right now over to the left slightly? Okay. Now let's look at the operations that you're listing here.
Mhm.
Okay, is this okay? So okay, chain the operations. Oh my God.
But we went through all this stuff, Steven, with you. So I'm not sure why you are acting surprised. But again,
When?
last time. So there is what so get attribute is basically, you know, the equivalent. If you have an object that is now and now was up to this thing, you do get attribute of here, and basically you are doing the same thing here. Method call is calling a method. So if the object was containing up to now, and you're doing
How did you
method
get
call
this
date.
stuff past me last time?
Well, you know, Stephen, the compose was something we hashed out as a win in a long session, improving over other designs on this sort of lazy composition of a bunch of method calls. You know, avoiding. We were pretty happy that with the compose thing as a way to succinctly describe a series of operations in a row.
Right, I remember that somewhat. So can we go back again? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, look, the return type thing it's just the wrong name for that. It's
I
just the wrong
mean,
name.
this is one of the things that probably can be improved. Yes.
Okay, so
return,
yeah,
evaluate.
just return might be better. Okay, but let's.
But one thing that can happen is that if the object is unknown to us, so it's like some random Python object, you are getting back the external object. Now, when you are doing this operation of return or evaluate without specifying, you know, that you want a string, you are getting back again the external object. So
I understand.
in this
So
case,
it's
you are
more like
getting
a
back the
cost.
date.
It's an attempted cost, and the cost might not work. Right? Yeah, that's what you're saying. You're saying
More or less,
attempt to
yes.
cast it into this type,
Yeah.
but it might not be possible.
Yeah, right. So return could, yeah,
Okay, can we look in more detail at these things? Okay, so first point is
Mhm.
the call version of this. Why isn't that just achieved by wrapping external function around the external object and then calling it?
You can do that as well.
Can you show me that? Can you just type that in, please? Just say it's just
Sure.
external function of, right, just external function.
Mhm. Okay.
Just type external function of the external object, wherever that is on line 4.
Mhm.
Okay, whatever. No. Now that should be an operator form of external function applied to arguments, right?
Right. Right.
So, okay,
Now,
so
now
that's
that this thing would work because now it's but I can put something else in here. I can put an actual function.
no, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm saying that rather than having this hacky backwards varargs call thing, to just have external function. Okay, so that worked. Well, wait a second. I don't understand why.
Well,
So
repr here was
I'm
a
using
command.
external function to basically. So this is part of the things that we can document, but basically what I'm doing is that external function wrapped around an external object turns it into a function.
That's great.
And then
That's
and then
exactly
you can
what we want.
apply. Right, you can do that
Great.
as well.
So let's not document that call thing. Let's just do it that way.
Okay.
I mean,
What
okay,
about
so let's
method
just go.
call? The
Let me
thing
just
about
go on
method
to
call.
understand these other things. Okay,
Mhm.
so method call. What's the difference between a call and a method call?
So this is basically just shortcut for, at least in Python, get attribute of something and then calling it. So this is just a shortcut. Now,
But
Okay,
hold
so
we
on,
can do this.
method call is different. Call is kind of a weird thing when the object itself can be seen as a function that operates on arguments. Method call is where I've got the more typical case. I've got an object and now I want to call one of its
Yes.
named methods.
Right.
Okay, so I've got a suggestion then. Got a suggestion. Why not have that be, no, scroll back up again, please.
Mhm.
Scroll back up again. I think that what is really nice is being able to use external function to use our function calling mechanism, right? And what you're doing there, rather than putting it in some backwards, tail of the sub-value animal, right? Have it be the case that you make something which is an external function that then you can apply to arguments, just like you can any other function. See what I'm saying? So what I would suggest is, in that line, external function of repr, whatever it is, have the possibility, external function of external object, arrow, the method name. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe I should take the
Okay.
screen and type this.
Yes. Yes. No, I understand. So basically, if this is now and it has an object called
a method called date.
Yes. Then you can call it like that.
Right. So now what does the get attribute thing do? What does
Get attribute
do?
gets an attribute. So
What does that
basically,
mean?
so it's equivalent of doing that in Python. So the underlying object is now gets several attributes.
Okay, what's the
One
difference
is
in a
called
method and
here.
an attribute? What's the difference in method and attribute?
A method is an attribute that is a function in Python, at least.
Yeah, Stephen, in like C++ or something, these would be a field is the expression we use in Java or C++. A field, obj dot year is a field.
Yeah, right.
Obj dot year with parentheses is a method.
Okay. So let's think about how to do this.
And date, for example, is a method, and so up to here, it's basically this is the method, and then you call it.
Okay, I understand. So let's go back to assume that everything we want to call is wrapped as a function. And the attributes are and then, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you could just use the sub-value to get the No, you've got a setter there? No, you've got a thing called get attribute that's a frigging setter? What the heck is that?
Sorry, no, this is a typo.
Okay. Okay, I just don't buy this at all. I'm sorry. Look. Why isn't, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if external object sub attr got the value of that attribute?
You're converging on J-Link syntax here, Steve.
Yes, we have been there. And then you cannot do any kind of other operation, because the beauty about this stuff, this is more like, Steven, you need to see this as a more low level thing on top of which you build more, you know.
Why is it low? I mean, but if I've got an external object and I want to know properties of that external object,
Yes, you need to. The problem is that, yes, you want to do several operations on this object. There is not, getting an attribute is one of those operations. And yes, obviously we started with a design where basically you just, the first value and the sub value is an attribute, but then how do you call it? How do you do all these other operations that
how do you call? No, calling is wrong. You don't want to call it this way. You don't want to call it this way. You want to call it by wrapping external function around it.
Correct, but then getting this attribute would not return to you the value, right? Because it cannot return the value, because now if this attribute is like the number 2 or 3 or a date or something that we understand, now you get back a value, not an external object anymore. And so when you do that, it cannot really return a value. So now you are in a
what do you mean
world
it can't return a value? You're saying certain attributes, which are
Yeah.
going to be these method calls, should be returning an external function, should they not?
some attributes, yes. But now there are other attributes, like, I don't know, let's assume that, you know, yeah, there is something here that returns a date.
Yes?
Now you get back a date object in Wolfram language, but assume you wanted to use you wanted to do other stuff over this date in Python before returning it in Wolfram language. How do you do that?
Well, why did you type the Python code then? I don't understand. Why are you doing what? You want to, okay, basically what you have invented here is a new thing that we could call external operation. Because what you're doing is you're saying there's external evaluate, which takes arbitrary code in the external language and evaluates it.
Mhm.
Now what you're doing is, given that we now have external objects, we now have a new concept of an external operation done on
Mhm.
those external objects, not in
Right.
our evaluator.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So just type out the word external operation.
Okay.
Okay? Because I think that's what we're going to want. Because if you had an external operation, then let's just think about that. No, I wouldn't do it that way. I would say external operation of, oh, I see. The problem is that you need to know in the external operation, get attribute, that's not enough, because it's unless it's kind of lazy up to the point where it knows what the object is. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because right now, otherwise, if that's a C++ get attribute, you sort of want a different thing than if it's a Python get attribute. And you don't know which it is until you hit the object. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, obviously, you know that a certain object is coming from a certain evaluation system without
No, I understand that.
actually
Once you have
yeah.
the object, but at the
Yeah.
level of, I mean, so if the external operation of get attribute is just a symbolic thing that means nothing until it's actually applied to an object, then that's okay. Let's just look at what it would look like if you had this external operation thing.
But I mean, in general, the external object as an object wouldn't need any wrapper because it knows methods, and so you can use the object as the head and apply methods directly. You don't need to wrap it in anything.
But Steven, also, like, you know, this thing that this assumption that you're doing, where basically the external object, you call it with sub-values and it's going to be an attribute, which is probably the most obvious thing to do. is not really generic in every language. So for example, SQL, right?
Yep.
Yeah, in SQL there is no attribute probably. Probably it can be named as, you know, if you have a query, it's just a column. I don't know. Obviously you will need to invent what it means there. But for example, in the plan that we have not been doing anything for external object in SQL yet. But one thing that you can do is that the external object is like the cursor, and it gets specific method in order to, you know, fetch some line out of the cursor, like 10 in. So this kind of method are really specific to the evaluator, and they are. And it's a design that basically allows you to do, yeah, all kinds of stuff on every evaluator, because every evaluator can have his own.
I understand. That's exactly why. So that's why I was yakking about the fact that the external operation here just has a name that you don't know what it means until you've qualified it with the system you're dealing with.
Right. That is correct.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So,
sure.
But I'm asking, is it conceivable? Okay, let's just run with the external operation for a second. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, first point is I'm pretty sure this call, let's just write down. The call thing becomes external function of the external object applied to the arguments, right?
Okay, so let me. So you were saying the call. What would be the call? So yeah,
external
function of the object.
Of external object.
Yeah.
Of arguments. Okay, yeah. Very nice. I think that's very clean. Okay, next. The method call is external function of object arrow method name of arguments. Okay.
Sorry, but that is rule abuse, but anyway.
What do you mean? Why is it rule abuse?
Well, I mean, why an arrow?
Because
you got arrows all over the place.
I know, but it's.
I mean, it looks like C++ syntax, right? OBJ arrow method.
Let's also remember that external function takes right now 2 arguments, which is the session and the function code.
Yes, but if you have an object, you don't need the session because you know which session it comes from.
Yes, right. So this is a way of using external function as a way to transform an external object into a functionally applicable thing.
Right.
Okay, let's now look at attribute. Okay, what it means. So we got getting and setting attributes of an external object. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to propose that external object, and let's see if this works. It may not work. Okay, that external object can take a string, get rid of all of that. Just say it's a obj of atta, quotes attribute. That gives the attribute,
value. Yeah,
and then obj of atta equals blah 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 as a setter.
This is JLink.
Okay, well,
You're
good.
Converging on
then
JLink.
you invented this 25 years ago. Or
right, except JLink doesn't use strings for these things. It uses symbols, but we have to use strings in general. We have to use strings.
Right.
But
Steven,
internally we went through this design. I'm telling you, internally we went through this design.
Honestly, as the developer of JLink, I think that this style of syntax, although it's beautiful and works great in JLink, I don't think it works in general for arbitrary languages. Because they're so, let me think, there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. But for one thing, JLink implements this equals to thing with some hack to allow it to work. Which would be nice to avoid.
Okay, but here it's a pure up value. It'll work with an up value, won't it?
No, assignment
only because in
with...
JLink objects are symbols. They format differently.
No,
that's not the case.
I mean, there is a way to make it work with mutators. I've done it for persistent symbols. It can be done.
Okay, so let's just go on here because to me, okay, so now we've got all this composition, this external chaining of operations. Okay, we've also got the cast operation. Let's talk about the cast operation. Okay. That is basically taking the external object and is trying to return it in a particular form, right?
The way it could be called cast.
No. Forget that. We're not.
Just
Forget
saying,
that.
yeah.
Forget that. Forget that. What would be the right way to do it? What is really going on? We've got an external object, and doesn't external evaluate have the apparatus to do casting?
External evaluate is doing that already. Like
Okay,
if you pass the object to external evaluate, like for example in this case where I have now, it materialized the object.
Okay, all right. So fine, but
sorry, now was assigned to something else. That's
whatever.
That's my bad.
Right, but my question is this, okay? If you just so you've got session now, okay, fine, but why not just say external evaluate of external object, and the syntax that you're using.
Oh, this also
string.
works, right? This also works. Like if you have a function, so if you have this function rep, you can use it here as well and it works. And rep is an external function, so you can do also function application.
If you use existing syntax, it would be external evaluate of object, comma, return type, arrow expression. Right?
That works as well. Like
yes.
Yeah, you if you put the full thing here and you do command goes to rep.
No, that's not what we want. Let's go back. Let's go back again. You want a nice clean way to be able to take the external object and cast it. The external object, which has not auto-cast itself for some reason, right? It has not been auto-casted to a Wolfram language type, but you now want to explicitly cast it. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why would that ever work? Why would that ever be useful?
This is converting the object now in string.
I know, but
okay.
But why is that? Okay, so you're saying that it is an external object which is really living in the external memory space. But I'm going to cast it. What could I cast it to? I mean, most casts won't work. If I say cast this to a number, for example, it won't work.
There are few return types that you have in every system, and they are typically something like just string, expression, and external object. This is true for Python, Ruby, Node.js.
Okay.
And
so let's
in
look
SQL
at
is different. Like in SQL is row, column. Because
let's look at what this would look like then, because I don't think this is the right mechanism. I just don't think it's the right mechanism. I mean, the return type would be an external evaluate. Go down to the bottom again. Go down to the bottom where we were actually constructing things we want to have, right? So we've got an object there, and if you say external evaluate of the object, external evaluate of obj, just type it in.
Okay. Yeah.
So that presumably by default would turn that object into an expression. Am I right?
Correct.
And that would already work. Is that true?
That will already work. Unfortunately, there is the operator form of external evaluate. And I can make it work as well, despite the operator form.
I think you should do that. Despite, in other words, when that thing is an external object.
Undocument, yes, or we can undocument the operator form, because we were thinking about this thing as well. And probably we can get rid of the operator form in order to do that. And silently...
Why do we want to get rid of the operator form? The operator form allows you to... No, I don't think we should get rid of the operator form.
Okay, well, okay, but external evaluate. It's weird that an operator form is, evaluating in one case and not in the other.
I know, so we have to think about it, okay? We have to think about it. So let's just write the operator form. External evaluate of session of quotes, whatever it is. So let's just write a real version. External evaluate of a real version from nothing. Just copy that line, copy the line, copy that line, copy the whole line, copy the whole line.
Yep.
And replace, just copy that line. Replace session with Python. Quotes Python.
Sure.
Does it
That
unevaluate
works.
it?
Okay,
Evaluate
that
it. Okay.
works.
I think that's a nice piece of functionality. So I don't think we
Fair.
want to give that up.
Right.
Okay. So what we need is the cast operation.
For the external object.
Yes.
Yeah. And unless you want to create a new function, this is already possible to do by doing this. Where commands.
No, but the command is a big can of worm. I mean, that's nasty. Okay, but there is the other syntax that you already have, which is to say external evaluate just repr arrow, no, repr arrow string, right? Or now arrow string.
That
right?
is function application. That is function application, not
Oh.
return type. For now,
Oh.
yeah. That's
Well,
that's
session
what's
arrow
in
string, comma now will work.
is return type.
Try
Yes.
it. External evaluate of session arrow string, comma now.
Of session
An arrow string.
Oh no, this doesn't work right now, but
Comma,
it could work.
comma now.
It could work.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that
yes,
should work.
It could work. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So.
All right, but this, I mean, string is not has nothing to do with session, right?
No, it's the return value. It's the same thing as we're doing
Yes.
elsewhere, where we give the return value. You know, it's the same thing we have, don't we? Python arrow string,
Yes.
right?
So this is yes.
Try
Okay,
that.
I see.
Basically, you do this is already working, and this is a string, I think.
Right. So I think that's
yeah.
okay.
A string.
All right. So let's go.
Yeah, but the main problem is that if now is an external object, then how would you know what session it came from? You don't need to know because the object knows. So we need something that doesn't involve session.
I know.
Now we could go back to something like making it of now comma return or now comma evaluate. I mean, this.
Wait, where? Inside the external evaluate?
No, inside the object. Now
okay.
wait.
Now is an object, obj.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and it
so
has
now
methods.
We have to decide what does obj do we. Oh God, this is a mess. Those things where you say obj of atta is quite nice. It will be nice to keep that, so we don't muddy up the attribute thing and muddy up the setter as well. Okay. But now we also have this cast operation, right? That's the okay. What are the other operations we're trying to handle? We've got.
Yeah, I mean, or could we just have? Okay.
We've got.
No,
cast,
I mean, the only operation that we really need are get attribute and call and method call. Those are the three things that.
Okay, but fine. But
everything
what
else
we're proposing
for now
to do is make the attribute be a subvalue, and make the call be achieved with external function.
Yes, but what about chaining operation, all this stuff? We don't.
What about no? I know we're about to talk about that. That.
But
okay,
I mean, in the simplest
case. Wait. We've got another operation, which is the cast operation. Okay, you want to be able to take the external object and somehow forcibly cast it. Now, I have to say that what that really is external function. Am I not correct? Just type it in, please. External function. And what's the Python command to turn things into strings?
str.
Okay, but you need to say Python at the beginning there, right?
Right.
Or session or something. Python, str, and now apply that to now.
Okay, they need to be in the same session, but yes.
Try it.
Yeah, that works.
Fine. So,
yeah,
so
but
let's just
again,
wait. I know you don't need that session there because it's already contained in the object, right? That's what you were going to say. So we need a way to apply
functions to the object. Yes.
Functions to the object, knowing what session they're in, right?
Which could be done in this
general
syntax
functions.
It be function or something. I mean, there could be an operation there that is function application where the first argument is a function and gets applied.
Oh,
But we can we use the return type as the method, so we can say obj of expression, obj of string. I mean, that's how Python does it anyway, right? So it's string is
OBJ, you're saying instead of the attribute, say OBJ,
Yes.
type it.
OBJ square bracket
of string.
expression, or
What?
even the symbol expression of it,
Right.
or the string.
No. Just the express.
Yes.
No. Not.
Yes,
quotes
that's what
expression.
I meant.
Okay, but I meant something different. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is OBJ of expression, not the string expression, but expression. Do you understand what I'm saying? Get rid of the quotes. Okay. Which is
Okay.
unambiguous with that attribute thing. In other words,
Same for
the
string.
attribute. What's that?
Same for string and external object, which are the three possible return types.
Yes. So I mean, a string could be the attribute, and there are other. It's a little weird, but it's not totally weird. But I mean, the main point to realize is that that string is the only thing you can put in there to represent an attribute, right? So any other structure can represent another operation done on the external object. Do you see what I'm saying?
So we would have obj of expression or string or external object.
Well, I mean, one thing that you can do also is to pass a function here, and it will, I mean, you don't really need, because you would call the function with obj. But yeah.
Well,
No,
why would
yeah.
we need that? Because that's just an inside
No,
out
that
version.
it's only not to specify a session, but I guess you need to do it in any case.
Wait. The external function doesn't need to specify the session, does it?
Not when it's created by us, but when it's created by you.
No, I don't understand. Explain to me that case, okay?
Yeah, so external function takes two arguments, like external evaluate. The first argument is the session. The second argument is the code, the actual code.
All right, but
now,
what
when
we've said,
create,
what we've said here is that external function wrapped around an external object will return an external function in the appropriate session.
Yes.
Steven,
That is already working. External function, external object, yes.
I think your statement is correct as long as external function is applied to external object. But if external function is applied to something from the Wolfram language side, then it's not correct, because then you would have no way to extract the session from those.
That's correct. Unless what's returned is an external object, which then can contain the session information.
No, because you will need to apply the function first, and if you don't know what the session is, you can have no return type at all.
No. Give me the example.
Okay, let's say you have external function that just sums 1 and 2 and returns 3.
Okay.
How do you know which session it belongs to? If you just feed it 1 and 2.
When you applied that,
yeah.
No, the 3 is in Wolfram language address space, not in the external address space. So
Right.
it's irrelevant where it is. It's not
type it out.
session.
Type it out. You'll see, Stephen. If you type external function of plus as a string, and then try to apply that to 2 and 3, where does this going? Just type external function. Forget the Python. Leave that out for now, and type plus, and then and give it the arguments 1 and 2.
I know that can't work.
That's what.
Right.
But
that's what I'm saying.
That couldn't work. So what? That
so
can't work.
So yes, but I mean, it works. My point is that in this particular case, you will need to specify the session.
Which case? Which case are we talking about?
This one that Ricardo has just written down here.
Doesn't specify a session.
Well, implicitly it does, because when you say Python,
it creates
takes
the session, then it removes the session. Now, where's the place where we have to keep the session persistent?
Let's say you have a function that you return from Python side. For example, it basically picks the value of some variable.
I don't care what it does. It's returned. If it's returned from the Python side, it's returned as an external function. Yes?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, but my point rather was that in general, external functions should have some information about the session where it is tied to.
Well, it depends. Yes, of course it should have. When would it not have? I'm completely confused. When would it not have?
Well, what you started with, you suggested that external function, when it is applied to external object, it doesn't have to know which session it belongs to.
Yes, because the external object knows. So
the
it
external
sees.
object knows. Yeah.
Right. Right. And my point has been that we cannot, in general, consider external function without a reference to the session where it is defined.
All right, Stephen, your example, you were saying just now, external function applied to an object. Well, the object has a session, but
Right.
what
So
if
it
what if it's
returns. So
not?
it only is.
But what if it's not applied to an object?
I'm sorry, what?
What if it's not applied to an
Well, what's
object?
the example? What's the example?
Delete the word Python from what Ricardo
Then it
just
won't
typed.
work. Then it won't
That's
work.
all we're saying. That's all we're
Then
saying.
it won't work. But why would we want that to work?
We don't want it.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
I thought that you were
no,
the
I
one
can.
proposing.
Steven, I can explain why. Because long before external evaluate even existed, I faced this problem with R-Link. And in fact, if you look at R-Link documentation, I define references to functions of two kinds. One is the kind that always exists because you define it essentially by a string of code. And then you don't need to know because you can reconstruct this function for a given session. But there is another one which incorporates certain state from the evaluation session.
I understand. Right. I understand that. But in either case, I mean, the generic with just a quotes Python there, that's a generic, which is a pop-up session in that case, but it could also be incorporated into another session. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so if you have this convention that generic will basically imply default session,
yes,
then that probably
not necessarily
is fine.
Default session absorbed into whatever session it needs to be used in.
But we are still only trying to solve the problem of converting external objects into expressions. Right?
No, I'm not. No. That problem. No. That problem, what I'm suggesting is a string subvalue means an attribute. We define three special attributes: expression, string, and external object.
Yes.
Those attributes are supported whenever they can be, because expression might not work.
Yes, so we are in agreement. I mean, that was my suggestion about 10 minutes ago. But
right. Okay. So I agree with that. Okay. So
okay,
now
good.
let's look at the composition question. Okay, because that's the one thing we haven't discussed here.
I mean, that there is also the fact about what other operation, like for example, in Python, other than get attribute, the most obvious operation that you want to do is get item, which is kind of similar, but not identical. Like, get attribute is object dot attribute, and then there is object, and then item here, where item is a string as well, like attribute. And this is how you extract stuff from a dictionary. Dictionary is like association. And so we also have, obviously I'm not documenting here because it's not for every language. But get item is kind of important, for example, in Python. And it's like, I wouldn't say that it's as useful as get attribute, but depending on what kind of object you're interacting with, it might be that this is a quite common operation. And this is why we were having this thing where basically, there are possibly different operations that you want to do with subvalues that is not just accessing the attribute. And again, we went there. We we tried to do that design. Didn't work out, and we never even discussed it with you. But yeah.
Right, but Ricardo, within what Steven suggests right now, all the other things will probably go under some external operation thing.
I understand. I understand that.
Well, I
but
don't
I'm
know
not
if
sure
external operation makes
that
sense,
it's
but I
worth.
mean, that is one possibility. External operation of, and then we can have endless named external operations
Yes.
for each language. I mean, this is the question. Do we want to tail these things in sub-values with great messiness in many cases, even if we have special cases for external function of external of object, you know, we could, I suppose, have, I mean, I don't know how many different kinds of attributings and items and extractions and
Steven,
subcasings, how many, which language? It's like,
No,
like
no,
in artificial human
they're not
languages,
much, but
my
yeah.
favorite is, is the language which has like 35 cases. Is there a situation where we'd have, okay, I mean, we can't predict how many wacky different subcasings people use. I mean, it's like we have part extraction and we have function application, and they're different, right?
right, but if we think in terms of subvalues, I think the first and most important question we have to answer is whether we will introduce some unwanted premature evaluation on the Wolfram language side that we may later want to control, because that would be bad.
Well,
for
but that's what
chaining.
you're proposing here. And in all of these things, you're proposing, all of these are immediate evaluation, right? All of those things you're suggesting, get attribute, et cetera, et cetera,
Yes,
et cetera, right?
all of this, they got immediate evaluation unless you use basically compose delayed. And with compose delayed, you are
Oh my
putting all this
God.
stuff.
What's that?
Why? I'm not sure.
It's horrifying. Okay.
Why it's horrifying? Not sure. I understand.
Because it's just like hack upon hack upon hack. It's this thing.
No, it's not.
When
I mean,
this
compose and compose delayed are the difference between set and set delayed over the object.
I know.
Compose does set and compose delayed does set delayed. And those are like kind of low level thing that you need to do, because the thing is we are solving the what people want to do interactively, which is get the value right here and right now.
Let me make a suggestion.
You need to add get attribute in front of it.
Let me make a suggestion. I think it's an easy solution here. Okay. Let's imagine that, go back down to that object attribute thing. Okay, go back down to the bottom, back down all the way to the bottom. Okay, so here's my proposal. Okay, the generic case is object of a string means the attribute. Could you type this, please? Obj of quotes atta. No, whatever. Obj of quotes atta. No, lowercase a, but it doesn't matter. Okay, now that's the generic case. Now the next case is obj of open brace, open brace, open brace.
Okay, like list.
Yes, list.
Okay.
Quotes, get item, and then whatever the hell you want, the item name or whatever. Okay. So that the idea is that the generic is attribute, but if you give that list, or possibly you can do it with a rule instead, then you get a different thing. Do you see what I'm saying?
And what's the semantics of this will be, Steven? What will it mean?
It means do the get item thing. It means the same thing that you had over there on the right. Except
is this
that
how we do method call too? Is this how we do method call as well?
I don't think it should work this way for method call most of the time. I think method call is mostly done with external function. External, look, for a method call, if it's a method, you're telling me the attribute, which is the method name, that obj of atta returns an external function, doesn't it? And then you can just apply it.
Well, sure. You're doing two operations to the backend instead of one, but yeah, so it's twice as low. But
yeah,
okay.
I mean, Steven, let me explain a little bit the rationale behind all that design on the right. The idea that Ricardo had, and then we all sort of agreed with that, was that at the end we have some intermediate inert representation of a chain of operations like an AST, but in Wolfram language. And then the backend can decide in more complicated cases when people want to chain things, whether you want immediate evaluations in the chain or whether you want chain and execute everything on the other side. So we needed that intermediate representation. And so exactly how syntactically on top of that we build all this nice syntax is probably of no concern to us. But if that syntax will require premature evaluations of parts, that can be a concern for us. I'm not sure if I expressed it clearly.
Oh yeah, you expressed it. It's a big hack tower. I mean, I understand. There's stuff that you want to evaluate only in the external system, right?
Maybe,
Which is why,
yes, in some cases.
that should be done using external evaluate, which right now its second argument is just a string. Maybe you need it to be something more complicated. If you want it to be evaluated in the external session, then put it inside external evaluate. Because that's the thing that tells you, make it be evaluated externally. So that, I think, is a possibility, to have something in the second argument there that is effectively I mean, I don't know how rich that second argument is right now, but that will be the place to put all these composed crazinesses. Because that's what it's telling you to do. Externally evaluate this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, look, here's an issue. Okay, we've got a pig here in terms of these external languages with all their crazinesses, and the question is, can we dress it up so that it looks like a sleek city-dwelling, whatever it is, right? And maybe it's not possible. Maybe in the end, the trotters of the pig are going to stick out, and we're not going to be able to hide all that stuff. What we're trying to do, perhaps incorrectly, is to put a business suit on the pig, in a sense. Maybe that analogy just fell flat.
Yeah, but I mean, there certainly is a good argument in favor of having a syntax that is more familiar to Wolfram language users. So
right,
I guess
but I mean, it could be that, I really like the way external function works, external object, and so on. I think they're very clean. And I think that they're things where, and I think our node, who's been using this stuff a bunch, maybe he can speak to how he feels about those things.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way things are working right now. I didn't really have a big objection to the design that's on the right there, because I think it's, sort of a low-level design, right? That only a few people are going to be using. This is not
well,
like
okay, but if that's really the case, but if instead it's going to be true that a lot of the code that you're writing on Node, for example, is going to have get attributes of this thing, blah blah blah.
I don't think that's the case, but I'm not sure. I just haven't started using it yet, so I can't really comment on which one of these.
Okay, look,
over and over.
Compromise position would be that we introduce external operation and what I'm worried about is burning up what is potentially nice syntax with subvalues for external object on all this stuff which I consider to be incredibly messy. You see what I'm saying? I mean, some of it is uncontroversial about what happens when you say external function of external object, but I understand that you want to be able to put things together. So what would happen if we just used external operation for all these things? And you have your compose thing basically becomes external.
But so you are saying, okay, so there are a few possibilities. Like, okay, one thing is that external operation is purely symbolical thing. And I don't know, I'm making this up. Object, and then you put get item, and then you put all your stuff, right? And then in order to evaluate this guy, you pass it to external evaluate. And so the full thing is gonna be external evaluate of session, comma, this thing. Basically.
That's a safe way to do this.
And then you don't need the delayed call, you don't need the compose call, because in the end you are in control. I mean,
right. And by the way,
when you have
external
this thing,
evaluate could drop the session in that case. It wouldn't need the session because that's part of the object.
That's part of the object. Yeah. And the other thing is that maybe external operation is not about the object. It's just an operation that you write it. You know, you can have one
Well, it can
operation that is
have an
doing
operator for it.
something, and then yes, you do obj goes to external. I don't know, but yeah, inside
Well,
we
why
need
don't
to
we
find
just
a
apply
way.
it to? Okay, is the name external operation right? I don't necessarily want to use that up for something that is kind of a I mean, let's think.
About external language operation?
No, because we're not using that elsewhere.
I mean, for sure, there is a whole bunch of things that we can document in any case by just using properly, as you were saying, you know, external function and
Sure.
and also the ability that you can pass external object back and forth.
Okay, but
And
let's
so-
look. This is
But the operations
a
are out,
defensive
and
design, which we can then decide to have shortcut syntaxes that use the sub-value of external object later on, if this is the full form. Do you see what I'm
and so
saying?
you're saying that basically for we don't do anything for sub value for now,
correct.
and we only do external operation, and then we decide what to do with sub values later. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. So let's think about this. Is external operation the right term?
Regarding this, Stefan, I think if external operation remains always a purely symbolic thing, even better maybe an operator form, then if it's completely inert, then using it here would not necessarily restrict its use in other parts of the language should we later want that.
Well, so wait a minute. The operator form, to get the OBJ out of there, and
Yeah.
then have the OBJ be its sub-value of external operation.
Something like that. It wouldn't even necessarily have to be a sub-value because, I mean, syntactically a sub-value,
what?
but
Yeah.
but not evaluating at all because it will be external evaluated, which will understand what this is.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, this is the actual internal thing that I'm using, where basically I'm calling it remote procedure call.
I don't care. Let's not look at this.
No,
please.
but just to
I see,
basically
I see.
the operation is at the beginning, and then it's called
Well,
with
that's
other
nice.
stuff.
That's nice.
Just like Wolfram language, you know, it's
Yeah,
the same
right.
idea more or less. Only for external languages. But yeah, this is more or less what it is. But I guess we don't want
Okay, so
people to
why don't we
write
just type in
this.
external operation? Just type external operation. Just type on a separate line external operation of whatever, you know, get item, call, whatever you want to make it be.
Let's
Yeah,
not
get
use get
item.
item. Let's use method call. That's by far the most common operation you're going to want to perform is calling a
But
method.
we have an alternative way of doing method call.
I'm not sure we do have an alternative
Yes,
way
we
of
did.
doing
We
method
just
call.
went through it.
It doesn't solve the problem of specifying the return type, the casted return type, for example. Whether
What
we
the
want
hell
this
is
thing.
this? No, this is wrong. What is this? What the heck is that? No, absolutely not. External operation, just it has one operation in it, method call, right? Get all the other junk out of there.
And what? Okay. And then
now,
how
if you
we
want
use
to
it?
return a special type, you say arrow something or other if you want in that place in the external operation. Okay. Now, the external operation is a method call, and it can be applied to an external object. So type quotes obj there. I mean, not quotes of obj obj. Okay. Now, what the heck's the other thing there?
Okay.
What is that other? What is that named thing? Why is there a name?
Name is the name of the method, and 2 and 3 are the argument to the method itself.
Okay,
so,
but get that into the external operation then. That goes in the, okay, so get rid of the arrows.
which is why I was writing it like this.
Okay, but don't
yeah,
put the
okay.
external object there. The external object to which it's being applied is a sub-value.
Okay, so like this.
Right. Right. Okay. I really think that should be in a list, that the external operation stuff inside there should be in a list. So that
from here
no, the whole thing in a list, the whole thing in a list.
The whole thing, okay.
The whole thing in a list, so that if you want to chain it with multiple operations, you can do that by giving. No, there's no second list there. right now. Like, get rid
Okay.
of the second list. Okay. Now that thing will do absolutely nothing unless it's put inside external evaluate.
Okay, so okay. So the whole thing, even when you call it with sub values?
Well, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like,
You tell me. I mean, maybe there's a way to do that. I would think it either, you know, what's it going to do? I mean, you're telling me that it's so important that it, well, actually, if,
well, look, if so,
no,
in
if
the
you can
end,
chain it there, then the external operation becomes a chained thing. What are you doing?
no, I'm just saying that in the end, when you're writing this for real in actual code, you know, it's gonna be probably OP1 is gonna be inside a variable, and so yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm just
Well,
trying to
okay,
write
so
something.
look, maybe
Yeah.
it's external operation. Maybe you can chain the external operation there as you wish to chain them by having you know, varargs of the external operation. So I'm nervous about that. I would prefer multiple sublists. Let's assume it's multiple sublists. External operation of multiple sublists.
But why? Why you wouldn't want to do it
Because
varargs?
I'm nervous that you're going to need another thing like a session information in certain cases. Okay.
No, I think here a good design will be that this thing is doing only this thing, and any kind of other meta information is going somewhere else, I think.
I'm going to tell you, I think it will be safer to have it be sublists. But anyway, doesn't matter.
But if external operation is able to have multiple operations for chaining, then you really don't need the external evaluate around it because it
No,
could
you
just
don't.
do the thing.
I agree. Right. So
So,
external
I mean,
operation.
this line, external operation of blah blah comma obj would do what
The evaluation.
would do the evaluation. It has all the information it needs.
Right.
And we can chain it by having multiple lists in the external operation.
Why can't you chain it by doing actual
an alternative, which is what I was doing in the previous design, was to have this thing be lazy first, and so doing this will return a new external object that didn't do anything, and then you need to feed the external object to external evaluate in order to resolve it. And so basically this, if obj is an external object, doing this thing is doing some manipulation only on the expression level of the external object without doing anything on the evaluator. And then you feed it back to external evaluate in order to, and this was one of my first design, but this kind of design was basically, you know, people were thinking that is not really good for, you know, programmatic interactive uses, sorry.
Right. There was a very clear reason. I mean, if you want, Steven, I can explain why that design was something we frowned upon.
But I don't know, when you're speaking about something like this and we are not sure whether it should evaluate or not, like this operation could in theory return an external lazy object, let's call it like that, or otherwise
I think
could,
with external operation,
resolve.
Ricardo, we have no problems of that anymore because it basically takes care of everything you wanted to do inside lazy external object, doesn't it?
Yeah, more or less, yes. It's just that you need to keeping track of this external operation by yourself if you cannot accumulate it inside the object.
Hold on. Why
Lazy
can't
way.
you compose external operations? Explicitly compose them. Like you want to run three things together. You literally say external operation of blah, of external operation of blah.
Okay. If they are not doing anything, like if they are not really evaluating, you can safely do that.
Well,
because in the end, it's going to be a Wolfram
accumulate
language operation, and nothing is going to go wrong. In the previous design, the thing is extracting an attribute and then doing a method call and then doing another things. The second operation might fail, would result in a failure, and now you are passing a failure to the next thing, and now you got a splat. And so, like, as long as the operation are completely lazy, yes, you can do that. If the operation are
But what you could
evaluating,
do, if you
not
wanted
really.
to, if you use the scheme of accumulating the sequence of operations into an external operation, okay, then the composition of external operations could, an explicit composition could turn into a single external operation that has strung together the operations inside it. Does that make
I
sense?
was going to suggest that, in fact.
So the idea is that if you write f of g, then it would do it step by step with round trips. But if you say composition of f comma g of obj,
well, no, I'm
would,
suggesting that if you write, oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
But
yes.
if you write, if you write the composition would evaluate
Yes.
to a composed external operation. Right.
Yes.
I'm suggesting that. Well, I don't think it's exactly that. I think it's
Yeah, it's
composition.
Stephen. It's just a statement. Composition is flat. You are suggesting something similar to the composition being flat.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
Right.
I think this is looking promising. I can't claim to have thought through all the. I'm just very nervous about using the sub-value of external object in this, as I see it, rather hacky way. And by the time we've got all these delayed compose and so on, I think we're kind of that's a self-answering question that we're not doing the right thing.
Right, but with this external operation, if it stays completely inert, I think it probably will solve all the problems we wanted to solve with those.
Well, I think it stays inert until it's applied to an object, right?
It depends. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right. When
But
it's applied to an
not
object.
like this thing, like really is like some lower level thing. I mean,
yeah, that's inert.
Expecting people,
inert.
but expecting people to write this every time they want to access an attribute or doing a function call. I mean, yes, you are saying that.
I'm sorry, that's what we get. Look, listen, I think there's a nice syntax for that stuff, but we're not ready for it. We're just going to get it wrong. So I'm saying, if you want to do the nifty way to access an attribute, then we've got to invent a proper syntax for it. We just tried. We just concluded that there are 7 different things you want to do. The syntax that you have proposed is very ugly, and I think will fall over. Okay, and this is a more defensive design that, yes, involves more typing. Am I making sense?
Okay.
And I'm saying the external object, if you wanted, compose together 7 things in the external operation, you can do that right now with substrings. Am I making sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess
strings, you mean several arguments inside the external operation.
Yeah, I mean several different operations.
Yes, external operation of list 1, list 2, list 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And composition of external operations would turn into that composed into that chain form, and then do a single trip to the remote.
Yes, that's correct. When you apply it to the object, nothing happens until you apply it to the object. When you apply it to the object, just like external function doesn't do anything until external function just sits there until you apply it to something.
Right.
Right, and in fact, Roman, I think at some point you suggested something similar to external operation during our design.
That's quite possible, but
so we came sort of back to this, but now Steven suggested that. But
yeah, I mean the big difference is, I mean, at some point we decided we didn't want anything around the object, right? Because that would mean that we would need to know things about the object outside of it. And now we are.
Yeah, and in fact, let me make this comment, Steven. In fact, the way we build these queries now with external operation is very similar to the way we build entity queries for databases by combining inert things. So basically, there are cases where it might be advantages. This is my point.
Yeah, as you know, I don't like those very. I think what we should do with databases is always return something, which is what you were saying you tried earlier, to always return an external object.
Right.
Why doesn't that work?
For databases?
No, for this case. Why doesn't it
Um,
work to do an operation and always return an external object?
This is what my original design was, and the object was lazy actually. And then you need to resolve the object every time you external evaluate.
Right. The reason why, at least I dislike that design, was that to me, external object is something that points to something existing in the other workspace. And if you have two types of external objects, some materialized and some to be materialized, and maybe they will never be materialized, maybe there will be a failure. To me, that was something rather confusing, because I would prefer external object to be something where I can count that, okay, there is some actual object on the other language side corresponding to this external object.
Well, but not always. Like, you know, one time you want to do that,
I have to go.
and this
guys.
is
Look,
set.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
and then there are other cases where you want that every time you evaluate the object is now, and so it's always dynamic, right?
Listen. Let me just make a meta comment here. Okay, we tried to stand up this design involving more and more ornate subvalues. It is falling over of its own weight. We need an alternative. I am not thrilled about. I mean, I guess so long as external operation is purely something that works by subvalues, it's probably okay. It's probably okay. It's a little bit hard to explain why an external operation is different from an external function, except that it's a built-in operation. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but still, most people who would actually want to use external operation will not be very regular users who want interactive things, because we probably will have simpler syntax for interactive use.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I think this is probably right. Think it through, see what we missed, and okay, I'm sorry, I'm really late for something else, so I'm
okay.
All right. But the functionality here is very nice. So I'm not, there's nothing. Just, this is what happens with these designs. You go in a certain direction, you build the tower, and sometimes the tower falls over, and that's kind of what I see this as having happened in this case. I think delayed compose is the final thing that's pulling on the tower. Anyway, my point of view. I don't know. Roman, Todd, do you want to make any
But Stephen, you don't mind if internally we still convert everything into this style that's documented here, right? You just care about what users
I don't care. I care about what the users see.
It's a little bit like data structures, right? I mean, the way data structures, the interface, the API for data structures is not at all the way we would use it in Wolfram language, but it is very convenient. It is very convenient as a glue code into the compiled world. And if you don't want, you don't see it.
But if I can, why the reason why we did that is because there is a similarity between this thing and data structure. They are both some mutable thing.
I know.
That you interact with by doing
yes, but data structures is more limited. I mean, they don't have 3 or 4 different things you can do to them.
So they have particular operations, but they don't have these deeper, kind of core kinds of things. Anyway, why don't we? See whether the thing we've designed here works. I'm optimistic that it will. I'm not guaranteeing that it will.
No, we
will discuss it
internally,
and then we will get back to you.
Probably need one more. Maybe if we're lucky, if you think it works, then it's going to be a fairly short next meeting. If you think it doesn't work, I think our plan B is some slightly more defensive design version of what you proposed, deeply experimental, because I don't think it's going to survive. And so that means it has to be more defensive so that when we change it later, we can still maintain compatibility. All right. Thanks, guys.
Right.
See you later.